Some stands in the new continuity are alternate versions of older stands, like the World, Hermit Purple, and Heaven's Door. So what do each of them represent, and what is the spirit that stays consistent for each stand across both versions? The first stand with two versions is the World. In Part 3, Dio has this stand because the universe favors him. Someone has to benefit from fate the most, and Dio's fortune has made him superior to all, because the longer time passes, the more power he gets. So he can stop time to suffocate others with the power disparity, as he's the only one who can ascend through time, while others are aged and weakened and eventually destroyed by it. Original Universe Dio coasts on getting advantages that place him on top of the world, even though he messes up at every turn. In Part 7, Diego practically gets the exact same stand, but for a completely different reason. His ambitions are so solid that as long as the universe isn't rigged against him, he can climb over anyone and rise to the top. At its core, the universal idea of the world is that it symbolizes how the user has the power to be above anyone else in the world, so they can suffocate and hold anyone in place to use them as a stepping stone to climb higher. It's not omnipotence because the user doesn't have power over everyone, but it can freeze the whole world at once and let the user take individual actions around them because they have power over anyone. The main difference between both versions is that Dio can climb higher because the universe gives him gifts, while he can't climb by himself, and Diego can climb through his own ambitions, but is limited by the universe holding him back, which is why base universe Diego is blocked from getting the world by the agency ceiling that is the Holy Corpse. And Otherworld Diego can only stay in the base universe as a visitor, always at the mercy of base Diego's body. Because of this, even if he replaces Dio in the original universe, I don't think someone like Diego would be able to qualify for the Heaven Plan. His power depends too much on him seizing the few opportunities he's given, like an evil Jotaro that holds down others. Whereas Dio's power comes from how he's always given opportunities, which is what he exploits to achieve heaven. Their stands function the same, but the sources of agency behind them are opposites. Unlike the world, Killer Queen functions differently between the two continuities. Killer Queen's core concept is that it's the explosive power of someone who has very strict and specific tastes and aggressively and violently ensures they're met. They're very particular, like a cat, and they adhere to their preferences without any restraint. The difference in Killer Queens is that the first Kira Yoshikage is like a landmine. He has an unsustainable routine he doesn't want to stop, so he hides from view, but then erases anyone who gets close enough to threaten him. Because of this, he gets one explosive to symbolize his landmine tactic, which is manual but tethered to one spot because he acts freely within it, and one explosive to symbolize the erasure routine he holds himself to whenever someone breaks through it, which is automatic because it's an emergency routine he follows strictly and aggressively. The second Kira Yoshikage is the new continuity version of Jotaro. They say it's good to ask questions before you shoot, but because that would hinder his performance, Jotaro shoots whenever he can. He just also tries to think even faster than that to be able to stop the bullet or aim more effectively. That's the symbolism of the introduction we're given to his stand, and it's what Star Platinum's core concept to condense Jotaro's power and exceed his normal stats symbolizes as well, in Starfinger and Star Platinum the World. New continuity Kira Yoshikage uses a Killer Queen because he aggressively acts on his beliefs and preferences with zero hesitation. He just makes sure, as he's in the process of acting on his beliefs, that they're accurate and generally good before he finishes committing to and achieving them 100%. So he makes bubbles right away, either planted in place or sent in a direction that he can detonate on command. And his other ability symbolizes how he holds himself to his values, because he'll confidently set himself down a path or on a routine to make sure some kind of ambition or goal is achieved, like how he makes himself a man of the sea, being a ship doctor for years to provide for those he cares about, and then switches goals to find a cure for Holly, which again, he immediately dedicates himself to 100%, just like Jotaro. So he gets a colony of substance he can send forward with control over what they target, because he's independent and much more concerned with both the methods and consequences of his actions. Stand autonomy is a bit fluid, and how you consciously get your own stand to move depends on how you choose to approach it in the moment. But while villain Kira somewhat prompts his sheer heart attack to aim for a target, and then lets it loose on anything in its way, Jojolion Kira seems to have similarly automatic sheer heart attacks, but that wait until they reach their target to act, and that he maintains a bit more manual control over. As opposite people, villain Kira's explosions can silently erase things, but Jojolion Kira's explosions can be much more powerful. Love Deluxe, fitting the name, is about an extreme degree of love. Yukiko's priorities revolve around romance, but while she genuinely cares about whoever she falls in love with, she's so aggressive and forceful in following her feelings that she misses the point and drives the person she wants to be with away. Romance becomes a battle to her, and instead of forming a genuine connection, she pursues it by doing unhelpful stuff, like forcing her target to be with her or focusing on improving her looks over her personality. She's so committed to her sense of love that she won't truly consider the autonomy or insight of the other person, and her actions end up crushing the chance of a true relationship with them instead. So her stand is a power-only stand that makes her hair the weapon she fights with. It can grow, entangle, and physically harm people, and it's symbolic of her weaponizing her looks for romance instead of pursuing a relationship properly, because hair requires the most attention to maintain. A lot of ability-only stands are tied to the body, because those people at least try to manually accomplish things. It's just that their day-to-day efforts and struggles are set up to ultimately be distractions from their fundamental problems. Until Koichi gets through to her, twice, Yukiko doesn't actually do what it would take to receive love back from who she cares about. She compensates by focusing on love as a battle. To her, if she improves her looks and forces herself on someone, then surely they must end up loving her. And that's the blinding intensity of Deluxe love. So her ability is to turn her hair, symbolic of what she spends her personal effort on, improving her looks and whatnot, to force herself on others, growing and trapping them and having physical force. Love Deluxe is the opposite, and fitting its name, it's about a deluxe love for the concept of love, so infatuation. Carrera is not compensating for a lack of an ability to solve goals with some approach. She doesn't have strong enough goals to bother truly solving them with her abilities, so she can't stick to anything, and all she does is follow impulses similar to shallow infatuation. Carrera's driven by instant gratification to do whatever she wants to in the present that doesn't take much conscious effort, even if that can get her to fall into more tedious routines, like chasing after someone she barely knows, living off of constantly scamming people instead of a stable job, or being puppeteered back and forth by others. If something feels like it would be easy enough for her, she'll fester there, falling into that behavior. But if it becomes too difficult or removed from her impulses, she flakes. So her stand, which would have a body, has the ability to grow hairs on surfaces, at a speed depending on how connected or physically close that surface is between her and her target. Because the hair, her ability, symbolizes the effort she puts into an activity based on how easy it feels to commit to, which depends on how instant the gratification seems to be. Since she exists to distract Josuke from who he truly loves, to be a cautionary tale for his obsession with finding out his past identity. So if she gets too far away, her hairs will fall off, because she's driven by shallow impulses and can't commit to anything meaningful. Jojolion Joseph doesn't have a lot of scenes, but what we do see of him suggests that he finds strength incorporating the stuff around him in how he solves problems. So his stand is a melee humanoid that can turn itself into thorny vines to show how if he's in one place, he can become entangled with the environment to add stuff to his arsenal and expand his range for milder attacks at the cost of direct power, which would explain why he attacks the thief with his shoe, why he abandons his life to stick around an interesting enough person he encounters, and how his time on Earth ends up entangling the future, creating both halves of Josuke and drawing them together. Because of this premise, it would still be fitting to name the stand Hermit Purple. But unlike Hamon Joseph, whose entanglement comes from the food chain, and who was given a divination power because of his ability to exploit hidden knowledge about the food chain, Jojolion Joseph is more like what I'd imagine original Holly stand symbolizes. His strength comes from becoming entangled with the place around him, but he can be aggressive and fight things, so his stand is thorny and works properly. The last alternate stand we know of is Heaven's Door, which, similar to the world, seems to function the exact same so far. Heaven's Door is based on the idea of the song. If you knock on Heaven's Door, when Heaven's judging you anyway, you're hoping that your desperate actions, your rapid useless knocking, will somehow be enough to reach someone on the other side and influence their judgment so they'll open the door for you. Despite how useless knocking should be, and how the decision should be in Heaven's hands, you're reaching their emotions through the door to manipulate them. Since that's a stand power, it means Rohan has the ability to do a tedious action like knocking, in his case, designing manga, enough to reach the heart of another person and open them up like a book for ultimate power over them. And this is the case for both original Rohan and Jojoland's Rohan. But Heaven's Door has a second meaning, which is where they seem to differ. The song is about a moment of judgment for a person who's been reflecting on the path they've chosen in life, hoping that they've been decent enough to still get into heaven. Original Rohan dedicated himself to becoming a mangaka sometime after repressing childhood trauma from being attacked by Kira. If I had to guess what feelings caused what developments to his personality, it'd be something like this, where every detail in every bubble depends on all the details in the smaller bubble within it. But Heaven's Door would have been a reflection of the path he went down. Awakening it would have been a moment of judgment, and his use of it would determine whether he still has a noble heart or has lost himself to that path. So at first, he uses it for his manga, becoming a villain to do so. But thanks to Josuke and Koichi, he's able to rediscover himself and grow as a stand user. So the question is how this is different for Jojoland's Rohan. He's already using mature Heaven's Door, so either he's meant to be a character who's already gone through his version of his namesake's moment of judgment, or it's going to be what he goes through when he returns in the story. We can't really say yet, but maybe there's a clue in how his stand namesake was covered by the band that made Jodios. In any case, when he shows up again, we'll know.